marine industry, shipping consumes at least 300 million tons of fuel every year. That is the figure I have. When this is consumed, what happens? What is released? Does it impact you? Does it impact me? Does it impact the environment? And then it is also said that at least 40 million tons of plastic end up in the ocean every year. And last week, we were talking about beating plastic pollution because of the enormous, or the challenges, simply put, that mankind is facing due to plastic pollution. And interestingly, that would be more or less the second time, looking at the time duration between them. Not too long ago, so a few years back, UNEP had talked about setting a day aside to beat plastic pollution. And only last week, another day was set aside to talk about plastic pollution. And now we are even talking about blue ocean, what it holds, the opportunities it has for all of us, and so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, you already have a topic set before us that we will listen to. The critical thing here is towards attaining greener shipping, cleaner oceans, and sustainable marine environment in Nigeria. What will be the role of stakeholders? Interestingly, the president, the mother of the day, earlier had reeled out the relevant stakeholder within the industry. Who indeed are these stakeholders? What is green shipping? What do we need to go away with? And one other thing I would like to add to this, which I believe the discussants will take cognizance of, are the emerging policy issues. I'm not looking at the IMO conventions, no. Our own national policies that are coming up and laws. Let's take cognizance of that as well. But the critical thing here, based on the topic, is the role of the stakeholders in managing all that we have highlighted. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the speaker, who is going to, Dr. Bashir Joma, the Director General, NIMASA. He is ably represented by Mr. Ifeanyi Anati, who is the Principal Marine Environment Management Officer, NIMASA. He will be speaking to this topic once again that says, towards attaining greener shipping, cleaner oceans, and sustainable marine environments in Nigeria. The role of stakeholders. We want to run a little bit because the time is fast spent.
I will start by commending the organizers of this program. It's a very nice one, a good initiative. And it's an initiative that will develop and sustain well-equipped manpower in the maritime sector. So I commend the organizers of this program and ask them to please continue because it's a good one, especially for our youth and students. Thank you. Okay, we have been given a topic, a lead paper presentation to make. And I must say that the previous speakers, more especially the last two, the two students that presented their speech, they have made the assignment easier because they have told us so much about greener shipping and the role of IMO also in ensuring that that happens. So if this program ends now, I think we have achieved a lot, but then we have to run and touch some of the things we still have. Okay, the topic has been projected, and you can see the content. We'll be looking at the introduction, green shipping overview, an overview of green shipping, the role of stakeholders. We are all stakeholders, all of us here. So we should know, by the end of this presentation, we are supposed to know what we how we and what we need to contribute to ensure that we have greener shipping in Nigeria. Then the recent development in technology, followed by the potential technological advancements. Then we conclude. Okay, introduction. The shipping industry has been around for centuries. And the way it has been, it's been connecting countries, cultures all over the globe. The influx of food, goods, and information from countries around the world has broadened people's diets and minds, and is a vital part of maintaining our world economy. We all know, someone spoke about global trade. We all know that shipping is the backbone of global trade. Without shipping, most of the things we use today, the clothes we wear, the food we import and all that will not be possible. So shipping has been playing a very good part in global trade. The shipping industry consumes 300 billion tons of fuel. We have mentioned that, many people have mentioned that here, of fuel every year, releasing around 3% of the world's carbon dioxide emissions in the atmosphere. Such large emissions of greenhouse gases contribute significantly to global warming, and as the world's climate begins to change, it is more crucial than ever for large companies to help clean up the planet. The insatiable demand of our skyrocketing population for imports is unlikely to change anytime soon. But by employing newer, greener technologies, shipping companies are finding more ways to soften the environmental impact by reducing their fuel consumption. Large ships can make significant costs to their carbon emissions, and companies are continuously seeking new ways to do so. We know that the topic we are looking at today, greener shipping, is all about developing ways, to operate in the maritime sector in a more energy efficient way that will be sustainable for us and for the environment also, because we know that shipping contributes, of course, to the climate change. And what we are, even though that shipping is the best when it comes to emission and all that, environmentally friendly, shipping is the best. But then, projections have shown that if imports continue to come, more increase in global trade, we need to look at mitigate the emissions from this sector, and if possible, take it off totally. Green trades and technologies are revolutionizing the shipping industry, cutting fuel consumption, carbon emissions, and costs for shipping companies by redesigning the hulls and the engines of ships to improve their efficiency, employing sky sails, and using low carbon fuels, like the speakers mentioned, new energies, cleaner alternative fuels. Ships can make large reductions in their carbon emissions. As major contributors to global pollution, the effort of shipping industries to incorporate more green practices into their operations is essential. The International Maritime Organization, the IMO, which develops the laws, the regulations, the conventions that we stakeholders, we implement, and use to ensure greener shipping and other maritime activities. They have taken actions to ensure that there is a cleanup in the shipping sector by ensuring that there is a cleanup of shipping emissions by reducing the sulfur content in ships' fuel oil. In response, the shipping industry started considering several solutions, including low sulfur fuel oil, marine gas oil, liquid natural gas, the LNG, and even burning the current fuel and having scrubbers on the exhaust stacks. The IMO has required that all fuels used in ships contain not more than 0.5% sulfur. Remember, we are talking about greener shipping. And these are regulations that the IMO, the international body, they have developed to ensure that member states key in, implement them, domesticate them, to make sure that we achieve this greener shipping. Okay, remember that the focus on this topic is the role of stakeholders. We are all stakeholders here. The ship owners, the academia, that do research to find out how these policies will be effective, and the captains of industries here, the regulators and all that. So we are now going to look at the role of stakeholders to ensuring that we have greener shipping in Nigeria. The shipping sector and its stakeholders recognize its power to change the impact on the environment and play a leading role. IMO has released guidelines, short-term, medium-term, and long-term strategies. However, the roles of other stakeholders cannot be understated. We know that IMO, has been doing a lot, to make sure that operations in the maritime sector are efficient, energy efficient, and also to reduce emissions. But then, this cannot be enough without the cooperation of stakeholders, you and I. If we do not cooperate, implement, and also make sure that at our various companies and all that, we play by the international rules, of course we will not achieve this. The shipping supply chain consists of several key stakeholders, such as the shipper, the ship owners, the freight forwarder, shipping line, ports and terminal operators, the inland carriers, and the intermodal terminal and depot operators. So these are all stakeholders. And going further, we'll see the roles that every one of us has to play to ensure that we have greener shipping in our nation, Nigeria. In the shipping sector, when it comes to becoming more sustainable, one, we will look at transparency. More is happening in the way the industry operates. For example, through decarbonization, where emission targets, regulatory requirements, and demand from financial stakeholders and customers are paving the way to more disclosure and transparency. But how is reporting done, and how credible is it? Is it voluntary, and is it verified by an external authority, body, or agent? What here is telling us is that, IMO, like I said, has done a lot developing policies. But we as stakeholders, what are we doing? Are we transparent enough? Are we running it the way it should be? Are we cutting corners? Recently through the MTCC Africa, we had they did a project with NEMASA, to record the amount of consumption when it comes to fuel consumption, to know how much, vessels consume and also what they emit. We did that, and one of the companies, I think Sea Transport, was selected, nominated for that project, and we were able to record and see. But then, that project was an eye-opener, because when we write to our ship owners to know if they have these records, sometimes we don't get. So they are not transparent enough to tell us this is what we are emitting. For us as a regulator now to know how to manage and also to advise. So that is what we mean by transparency. Then historically, shipping has been resistant to sharing information for fear of it being used in a competitive way, even if not proprietary. Transparency thus remains a challenge, but it is trending upwards with more demand for data and enabling stakeholders to make informed decisions around sustainability performance. Like what I was saying, if we get this data from our ship owners, it will help to make decisions on decarbonization and other issues of emission. But when this information is not given to the regulator and all that, it will be very hard to work out plans on sustainability. Okay, a question: what is holding private investors back from green projects? We all know that, this is a very good initiative, greener shipping, because all over the world, the emphasis now is on sustainability. What can we do, to operate in a more efficient way, and also to leave the environment better, or even sustain it the way it is? So all over the world is about sustainability, but then stakeholders are afraid to take up these initiatives. Why? Regulatory and policy uncertainty. Uncertainty rises project revenue risk, which in turn reduces project viability, investment, private sector interest, and innovation. When they look at policy uncertainty, they will be like, Is it reasonable enough for us to invest so and so amount of money on these initiatives? Then another thing is poor incentives. Many green technologies have large upfront research and development costs and long and risky development periods, but only generate long-term payback. And the potential for knowledge spillovers means investors only earn a fraction of the total rate of return as benefits also accrue to other companies. Poor incentives. If we as a nation, maritime nation, and also a regulator can begin to give incentives to our stakeholders, the ship owners, I think they will take up this. Because in other countries, like in Europe, they have, when you release your data and they see that the amount of emission, that your ship is emitting to the environment, maritime environment, is actually low, they encourage you. That is just incentive. They encourage you to do more. So if we can begin to do this for our stakeholders, we think they will key in and take up the projects. The lack of market data, without robust data, it can be hard to assess the expected risks and benefits of investment, especially for smaller startups and new innovations. This can push up the cost and may limit access to external finance. These are the reasons why stakeholders find it difficult to invest in green projects. Unclear investment goals. With a lack of globally agreed principles for climate finance, investors struggle to align investments with climate goals. The EU has been most progressive with its sustainable finance taxonomy, which aims to support sustainable investment by clarifying the economic activities that most contribute to reaching EU environmental objectives. I must say that the EU, European Union, they have been doing a lot. Even more than the IMO, they are proactive, in seeing that they achieve sustainable shipping in Europe. The actions government take now to set the world on a path to a more sustainable future that balances environmental, economic, and social outcomes. But the clock is ticking, and rapid progress demands priorities. One, to provide detailed action plans with clear accountability. Be bolder in incentivizing the markets and mandating change. Boost innovation through increased funding. Improve the design and delivery of green initiatives. Act as a role model for other parts of the economy. Promote a whole of society, people-centered approach. These are roles of stakeholders, both shipping companies and regulators. The shipping industry is leaving no stones unturned in order to contribute towards a greener marine environment at both manufacturing and administrative levels. The maritime industry is taking advantage of the latest technologies to ensure that new ships contribute as low as possible to the global population. When you go to developed countries, you will see this more. Ships now, some even use hydrogen, some go on batteries, though not on large scale. These are ways to eradicate the use of marine fuels totally, because they are the sources of this emission we are talking about. But when we begin to switch to alternative sources of energy, cleaner fuels, we can see that we will achieve greener shipping, not just in Nigeria, but all over the world. Designing a ship in recent times has become a challenging task for now. A ship has to be fully compliant with new environmental rules and regulations. A few benchmark technologies have already been developed to reach the ultimate goal of building a green ship, which would not only comply with the new environmental rules, but regulations, but would also leave least possible carbon footprints. This is what the trend now all over the world. Ship owners, stakeholders, they are beginning to think, how else can we ensure more energy efficient operations in the maritime sector? Some are going for alternative fuels, such as ammonia, biofuels, because from research, many of them have shown to have little emission or even none. Over time, shipping equipment and technologies have become more sophisticated, faster, and more efficient to meet the growing demands of a rising global population. Here are some of the environmentally friendly trends and technologies taking place all over the world in the shipping industry to ensure cleaner and greener world? One, slow steaming. One of the speakers for the speech competition mentioned that it's a very good one. Slow steaming is the practice of simply running at a lower speed, which can be significantly reduce fuel consumption on a voyage. It just means for a ship to go slow. And when this happens, emissions are reduced. So these are one of the things we can take up. It's a technology in the maritime sector that can also be adopted to ensure greener shipping in Nigeria. Designing more efficient ship hubs. Now, like I mentioned in the previous slide, new ships are being built, and now they are being equipped for sustainability. Not just to build the ship and bring for commercial load. Maritime laws and regulations are now put in place when ships are built now to ensure that they are sustainable and they emit less. Voyage optimization. This is simply using data to know when to move. NEMASA as a regulator has been doing much in this area, collaborating with NIMET, to see how we can also introduce this in our operations here in the country. You know when to move when the weather is okay, because when you are moving against the weather, maybe when there is a serious wind and all that, of course, you will consume more fuel and you will emit more. So these are strategies, technological initiatives to ensure greener shipping. For optimized propulsion efficiency, increasing the propulsion efficiency of cargo ships is also the best way to reduce fuel consumption and carbon emissions. More efficient port management. This is where, like I said earlier, we are all stakeholders. I know that the Nigerian Ports Authority are also represented here. This is what can also be adopted. In other developed countries, they do what is known as just-in-time arrival. Before a vessel arrives in port, there will be communication between that ship and also the port that is going to make sure that as soon as it comes, arrives, and bears, they will attend to it and it will leave. Okay, now let's do the potential technological advancements. Designing a ship in recent times has become a challenging task, and also because it has to comply with both environmental laws and regulations. I mentioned this earlier, but here is the list of the technologies that, when used or when deployed to the maritime sector, would result much greener shipping industry. One, no ballast system. About ballast water management is to achieve safe, secure shipping, cleaner oceans, and enhance maritime capacity in line with global best practices. You can see that the topic we are dealing on is well captured in our vision too. Then NEMASA, through this mandate, has continued to contribute to the attainment of cleaner or greener shipping in Nigeria. This it does through investigation and adequate enforcement of IMO conventions, regulations, and administration of the cabotage regime. Thank you very much.
And of course, he talked about the technology. The pathway to go today or to follow is decarbonization. And you all recognize that even as a nation, we already have a plan for decarbonization declared by the president at COP26, if you recall that. And so he has spelled out what stakeholders need to do. To reinforce this, we'll be discussing with the distinguished panelists that are already seated, the shippers, owners' perspective, we will take that. And then we also have the seafarers' perspective, we will also take that. And then the youth perspective. Interestingly, you recall those still sitting, waiting for their scores, had presented their ideas as youth. So what could that be more?
Thank you very much again. This is a very good event. And I must give it to you. Give yourselves a big round of applause for participating. You're all clapping well. Thank you very much. Yes. Everything that we're talking about here was ship owners. So I was waiting for this opportunity to come. Our friends in the Masa, we are partners in this business. Like I said, this is Mame Water business. We have to know how we navigate through it. So I want to start by saying that, there's an adage that says, I want to twist it around. To whom much is expected, much must be given. So I put it back to the master that when we talk about ships, they're not clapping. So I repeat, to whom much is expected, much must be given. And we already know Nigeria is running through a phase. The key to unlock the economic prosperity of Nigeria is in shipping. Why I left my profession to come into shipping is because this is the biggest business in the world. The only person that walked on the ocean was Jesus. We don't have that opportunity. So the only way you can go to the ocean is by sea, by ships. So if shipping is the thing that will solve all this problem, why don't you give us ships? So we commend the fact that we have a new president and he's really hitting the ground running. I hope he knows that this is where the salvation is. So back to what I am saying is that yes, we ship owners, you're talking about how much fuel that is consumed, I think $300 million, but it costs us $250 billion annually, globally. So those who spend $250 billion on one particular item, line item, which is almost 60 to 80% of our operational cost, you should not be preaching to the choir. You should be preaching to the congregation. We are in the choir. So to cut our cost, what you're saying is to our benefit, really. So we as ship owners are ready to support the greener shipping. It is for our own good and for also your own good. If our cost is reduced, then of course the cost of shipping will be reduced. The whole world will prosper. It's a win-win situation. So what do we do? Well, there's a lot of, go on the internet, you can deliver this lecture even better than the master. But the truth of the matter is that here, when we take a cargo of petroleum product, for instance, from Lagos to Calabar, what we do is we use what they call economic speed. Instead of the vessel can be rated to do 15 knots an hour, but what's the point running speed in the ocean? There is no traffic. So you go slow, like he has said, so that we can arrive there just in time. For instance, in Calabar Port, for example, and all those depots, they don't open until 8 o'clock. Calabar people, when they, especially, I think Akwa Ibom is doing a happy hour now. So that's my governor, for instance. So don't joke with him, eh? So the fact is this, instead of going there and arriving at 4 a.m. when people are still partying somewhere, then you arrive there at about, drop your anchor, report your arrival, and then you are taken in to arrive at the port at 8 o'clock when business has started, so they discharge you and you go away. You don't need to drop anchor, you don't need also to leave Lagos, running to Calabar when you know nobody will be receiving you. So those are the practical things we do. Talking about the fuel, the Dangote refinery has just been commissioned. We have the opportunity of having low bunker fuel from there. The truth of the matter is that I had the singular opportunity of sitting in the same room with the Secretary General of IMO when he came to Nigeria. Some of you saw that he dressed like a Calabar man in the pictures. I was the person that dressed him up. And I sat with him and I spoke for over 2 hours with him. And I asked him, I said, I'm a physician, I'm a medical doctor. I don't know how I came into this business, but you, with your experience, what do you think is the low-hanging fruit that we should have? I'm getting old, I want it quickly, I want it now. So he said, we have opportunity in Nigeria, the low sulfur bunker regulation will benefit us. And now, of course, NIMASA, you have our application from the Ship Owners Association that they should create a bunker anchorage where, because right now, cars have filling stations where they take their fuel. Ship owners don't have a place where we go to bunker. I say create a bunkering anchorage where low sulfur fuel can come from Dangote refinery. We can have the area controlled where all the regulators are there. The MASA is monitoring the fuel and so on. And of course, the Navy is also there to ensure that we get the right fuel. There is no illegal bunkering. So that is a low-hanging fruit that we should take into perspective. Thirdly, we have scrubbers that we use. We're also talking about alternative kind of fuel. People are talking about nitrogen, ammonia. That does not exist here, you know. So going back to the basics where I said to whom much is expected, much must be given, is that the issue of CDFF fund. Let us stop this rigmarole with it. Let's hit it on the head. You know, the time is running. So this fund for 20 years, a child that was born 20 years ago has already, in fact, he has married a wife and they have done naming ceremony. So the truth of the matter is that as soon as we have these ships, and also the funds that we have, we should be thinking about this green shipping, where we talk about new designs, we go to buy some new ships, because the kind of money we get, don't forget some people who go and buy very old ships, and in 2 years' time, the regulation changes and we go into this rabbit hole over and over again. So there are other things also that I have listed here, that there are battery-operated ships and so on, and those things we can do. You talk about incentives, yes. If there's a emission incentive bonus where so minimizers should be able to monitor that you are emitting less, and then there's incentive about that. But that may be far-fetched. Now the other issue is, I've talked about scrubbers and also fuel efficiency and so on. We'll save a lot of money, you know, 250 billion if we have fuel efficiency. And of course, the cost of freight and of course, those who import the goods will arrive at a cheaper price. So it's a win-win situation. There's no doubt about the fact that we don't need to be preached to. We ship owners are ready for greener shipping, and we're ready to support government, regulators, and the shipyards and the customers to ensure that we achieve this. Thank you very much.
And indeed, we talked about 20 years. Just to let you know that you add 5 years to that. This very hall was where I had my reception 25 years ago. The baby that is 20 years old.
Many naming ceremonies.
Sifera, we would like to understand your perspective when it comes to all of these issues.
If there's no way you have a 20 years old ship and then you expect to have another low quality of bunker and then you want to run with low emission of sulfur, that won't be possible. So paper bags are more encouraged in order to prevent the thing of plastics. Also, the use of dispenser instead of the normal table water we have. Once you are using dispenser, it reduces the quantity of plastics you dispose. That will also help to reduce and then navigate us to cleaner shipping. Then again, I will go back to quality of bunker. Sometimes when we, the seafarers, ask for the low sulfur, the ship owners always complain about their own cost of running the ships. So we can't do otherwise. We can only use whatever we are given to run the ship. So that will also help if the ship owners will consider more of the aim at hand than more of what is coming out of their pocket. That will also help. Then the last point I'm going to make is certification of seafarers. If you have competent seafarers, it's easier for them to follow tend seafarers flying vessels just in the name of saying the vessel is what's it called? Coastal vessels. If you have seafarers that have certification, they are properly trained, it is easier for the job to be done.
Thank you for those beautiful perspectives you just gave us. And like I said, we have an ambassador, Ambassador Winnie Obushaki, the Nigeria Maritime Ambassador 2022-2023. Place the youth perspective. I need to take it very shortly. But again, if you can also give the perspective of the inland waters, that could be. We're looking at the role of stakeholders. Granted that we're looking at the sea, but take note. Land-based activities, for instance, we talked about plastics end up in the ocean.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, so before changing my course, like we talk about the inland waters, I wanted to talk about something that the role, the part that the youth play in attaining leadership in Nigeria. So while the presentation was going on, I noticed that the youth were not included in most of the discussions. And the reason why we are here today is to enlighten the youth on how they can contribute towards attaining leadership in Nigeria. So how do we help the youth? How do we make the youth? How do we include them in attaining to leadership in Nigeria? The youth the two presenters that presented here earlier, they discussed the roles that youth play in attaining leadership in Nigeria, so I wouldn't say much about that. But how do we practicalize this? How do we put in the work? How do we put in action into this? Yes, we made mention about stakeholders, how we have stakeholders in the maritime industry. But then, as the youth, are we stakeholders? Are we part of the stakeholders? How can we help? How can we help the youth to hear their view and put in the work and practicalize these roles that they have to play towards attaining leadership in Nigeria? And also talking about the inland water, yes, the vessels do not just push in this plastic inside the inland water. This thing starts from home. For instance, in our homes, how do we dispose waste? Do we just pack plastics, papers, sewage disposals, food waste together in one part? Or when we drink water from plastic bottles, or we take any kind of mineral from plastic or cans, how do we dispose them? Do we just throw them inside the gutter? It's these things that find their way back into the ocean. They do not just appear there. And most times we notice that people, when talking about pollution in inland waters, we notice that people talk about how people living in riverine areas contribute to the pollution in our waters. But the truth is that people that are not living in riverine areas, people that are living in areas that are far from the river, are the ones that contribute mostly to the pollution in our waters. Because when they use their waste, they just discard them anyhow. You see a young person or an adult, you drink water and just throw the plastic. You even see cases of where people throw their plastic out from their car window anyhow. So these things, they find their way eventually back into the ocean. So the way we can regulate this is by creating awareness in areas that like this, not only in riverine areas, but areas that are far from the river also, on how to achieve proper garbage disposal, on how to make use of the required IMO standard required waste disposal cans, that red, blue, and the colors that represent each disposal, each waste, on how to use this thing. When we create awareness on this, we encourage people to dispose their waste in the IMO required standard way. I'm very sure that we will avoid much pollution in our oceans.
Question to the panelists: if you have place, we will encourage you.
My name is 7th AMSAY. I'm here as Secretary Director of the Coast Maritime Academy. So I have two questions majorly. One is a general question, and the other one is in line with what we're talking about. Now we are talking about the conventions from ILO and how the masters will be able to domesticate them. Or the truth is, we can see that the domestication of these conventions, they are not have agencies like the NVIDIA, we have agencies like New Wade, and yet nothing is being done. So how do you enforce it? Who carries on that enforcement? Now, my second question, which is the general question, is in advanced countries like the Philippines, for example, they make sure that they have invested very much in building their seafarer. They have sayings there that go like, one seafarer can build your village. It's like let me use a football analogy. It's like you buy a player, you sell a player from a local football team. You know how developed that local football team will become the next 5 years. Now, the master itself should encourage private maritime institutions, most especially with certifications, accreditation, and above all, empowerment, which is employment.
Delhi, Salami, Chairman, Board of Directors, Delta State Tourism Board. I just a little contribution I want to say here. While the youth was actually speaking, my mind was just going round and round, and I'm asking myself, why would the government coming with government and stakeholders coming with clubs that will actually bring on board youths that will volunteer to take up these vessels in the water, in the seas, the inland ways, and whatever, even on the streets. Where in the tourism sector, maritime tourism we're talking about here, and I also discovered that I brought in quite a number of international tourists to Nigeria, and sometimes it's disgusting when you're taking them around and you see everywhere littered up. I think there should be clubs for you. Get them on board. Bring in clubs. Let them use. There are a lot of youth that won't even want to volunteer. And they're volunteering, they're also learning. At this stage, I still volunteer to do certain things without being paid. But while doing that job, I'm networking and I'm moving to a next level. So please, let's bring in the youth. Let them volunteer. Get into clubs and then do something. Thank you.
And at least as a captain, I can tell that 90% of the ships are complying to this IMO requirement, the annex of that deals with the garbage disposal. But do we know that these islands, for example, Tapua Bay, Ituagon, Kwelejo, all these places, they are also islands. A ship is an island. These places are also islands. If you look at one ship could have maybe 23 crew, you can imagine the amount of waste generated on the ship. Now go to Tapua Bay, look at the number of people, look at the amount of waste generated. Go to other coastal villages. How much waste are they generated? What are the IMO regulation focuses on the ship? But who is focusing on this riverine area? This Loma and all the activities, have they got the necessary equipment to go to this island to take their waste? How much information do these people know about this waste generation? The same garbage annexes that applies to interface with the water should be applicable to coastal areas as well, because they are also interfacing with the water. So if we continue, you will even see some pictures on the internet where people are defecating into the waters and all this. But if you see that nobody is arresting, nobody is doing anything, but on the ships you see arrest and everything going on. So my whole perspective is the master and whoever is involved, Mapua, they should as well go into these coastal areas, create enlightenment, give them all necessary information, and provide the means of taking this their waste. By so we'll be able to get rid of all the waste in our coast.
I believe in giving the youth a chance. If you don't give us a chance, how do we learn? How do we get experience?
But I just want you to understand that when we talk about pollution within the inland waterways, we have some like overlapping jurisdiction between NIWA, EPA, and this. But what I want you to understand specifically is the matter is basically on ship source pollution aspect. But we go beyond that because most of the provision of the conventions are minimum requirement. So we go beyond river requirement. The master engaged in the marine charging of the water icing activities. So these are some of the responses that I wanted to add to. But what you need to understand is the overlapping function of jurisdiction. The master has jurisdiction within 12 nautical miles above, and the why NIWA has jurisdiction within the waterways.
As an individual, you are part of it. As a group of persons, you are a party to it. As an organization, you are part of the whole thing. To ensuring that what we're talking about, we're able to move on to ensure that we do not kill ourselves out of it, or do not blow ourselves out of existence. So ladies and gentlemen, I think if you want to give a round of applause to our distinguished panelists, based on what has been done.
I won't do any much introduction. The subject is very clear. Entrepreneurship is the bottom line as far as shipping is concerned, because money, profits, and commercial engagement is the reason that we do any business. So that's the subject of this session. And Mr. Speaker, I request that you just immediately take up the floor. Our speaker this afternoon is Mr. Okeke.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for the organizers who have made this opportunity for all of us to be here today, to come and listen, to come and learn from one another. The topic is very germane. Entrepreneurial opportunities in maritime sector for Nigerian youths. First of all, I want us to look at some key operational definitions, keywords. Let's look at blue economy. What is blue economy? It's an economic system or sector that seeks to conserve marine and freshwater environment while using them in a sustainable way to develop and grow the economy. Two, entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person who strives for success and takes risk by starting up a venture, business, or something that will be profitable. Someone who takes risk. He ventures into something new for the betterment of himself, the economy, and everyone. Opportunities. What are opportunities? They are favorable circumstances, occasion, time, or chance for advancement, progress, or profit. Then maritime. Maritime is anything relating or connected to sea or its uses. Then finally, among the operational definition of keywords, is the youth. Youth, the quality or state of being young. Here, I tactically didn't want to state age range. Anyone is a youth, as far as your mindset is the state of being young. Introduction. Nigeria, the most populous country in Africa, boasts of a massive youthful population. According to the National Population Commission, about 64% of Nigerians' population is below the age of 25 years. This really presents a great opportunity for the country to harness and tap into the energy and creativity of the youths towards growing its maritime sector. It is a common saying in Nigeria that the youths are the leaders of tomorrow. This means that the future of any nation, the future of any organization, the future of any family, the future of any home hangs on the survival and success of the youths. We cannot be a better country without the youths. We cannot have a better maritime sector without the optimal engagement of our youths in the maritime transport sector. The youths are the engine rooms of any nation, of any economy, and of any organization, because greater percentages of their workforce come out of the youths for the growth and their development. The Nigerian youths cannot be left out of redirecting of the Nigerian maritime sector for optimal performance. As the world moves away from the fossil fuel usage to renewable and natural energy resources, this is the time, the right time for Nigeria to shift focus from oil revenue to non-oil revenue to sustain its daily economic needs. The blue economy has been identified as one of the best ways government can diversify the economy of Nigeria from oil to boost its gross domestic product, like countries of USA and China. According to statistics, Nigeria has a coastline of about 852 kilometers bordering the Atlantic Ocean in the Gulf of Guinea, and a maritime area of over 46,000 square kilometers. Nigeria possesses fresh mangroves, swamps, creeks, coast rivers, estuaries, bays, and offshore waters. 9 states, the coastal states of Nigeria, which includes Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross River, Delta, Edo, Lagos, Ogun, Ondo, and River States, out of the 36 states in Nigeria, with about 25% of Nigeria's total population, share the Atlantic Ocean coastline. In spite of that, Nigeria is richly blessed with abundant ocean and sea resources to back its economic diversification and development drive. The country is yet to really take full advantage of these abundant economic ocean resources. Therefore, it now behooves our youths, as a matter of urgency and responsibility, to immediately tap into the maritime sector and take advantage of the entrepreneurial opportunities that are inherent in the multi-trillion billion blue economy. Now let's look at the entrepreneurial opportunities. The following entrepreneurial opportunities abound in the maritime sector for Nigerian youths. The number one, the barge operation. The great log in and out of Apapa seaports, especially in Lagos State, makes movements of cargoes through the barges the order of the day. Trucks take over 2 weeks from Mile 2 to get to the seaports. But with barges, it takes a maximum of 1 day. The barge industry in the maritime sector is worth over $3 billion. And now that the Lekki Deep Blue Sea has started operation, barge operation will be a profitable entrepreneurial venture for our youths. 2, boat operation. Also because of the gridlock, especially in a state like Lagos, moving by vehicles from Mile 2 to Badagry, take for instance, takes like 3 to 4 hours, but with boats, in less than 55 minutes, passengers are in Badagry from the Liverpool jetty in Apapa. Boat operation is becoming one of the fastest profitable maritime businesses to venture into, especially in a populous state like Lagos State. 3, certification training for freight forwarders. The Council for Regulation of Freight Forwarding in Nigeria, CRFFN, has said that any freight forwarder who fails to possess at least a diploma in freight forwarding by the end of 2023 will be deregistered and not allowed to operate in Nigerian seaports. This is a great entrepreneurial opportunity for our youth to venture into training for our freight forwarders. Number 4, establishment of maritime training institutions. An entrepreneur can, in partnership with others, establish maritime training institutions where seafarers could be trained for certification courses. diploma programs, and certificate of competencies, and other maritime short courses for fees. The establishment of maritime training institutions is capital intensive, but with joint venture and partnership arrangement coupled with quality training services, venturing into it could be highly rewarding. Number 5, sales and supply of maritime equipment. Selling and supply of maritime products and equipment like the halyards, ropes for hoisting flags, batting hawsers, ropes for betting ships, heaving lines, life buoys, life jacket, life raft, Monday morning hammer, Jacob's ladder, and so many of them that are used on board. If you venture into it, it's very, very rewarding. Designing and supply of international maritime flags and pennants. That is number 6. Getting people who do design and sew these international maritime flags and pennants, like the alphabetical flags, Alpha to Zulu, the substitute pennants, 1 to 4, the international code pennants, call answering pennants, and so many other flags, flags of all nations, ships that move from one country to the other. I'm sure they carry flags of other nations, so that by the time they get to those countries, they fly those countries' flag as a mark of courtesy. So flags is equally a very rewarding venture when you go into it, coupled with construction of flag poles, flag masts, and all that. Then another area to venture into is fishing operation. Fishing is a very rewarding business in Nigeria, though it could be capital intensive when you involve the fishing trolley, because fishing trawlers are very expensive. But also, like I said, in joint partnership with other entrepreneurs, you can venture into fishing. Fishing in Nigeria, the demand for fish in Nigeria is 3.6 trillion tons yearly. But according to statistics, Nigeria can only provide 1.2 trillion tons or 1.1 trillion tons, which means there is a gap of 2.5 trillion ton need of fish yearly in Nigeria. Think about it. If you venture into fishing business, how profitable it will be for you. Jetty operations. Investment into jetty operations where barges can load and offload cargoes, where speedboats can carry passengers and cargoes, is becoming very rewarding business because the roads are dreadlocked. With inflation rate in the country as at April 2023 ending on in 22.2%. By May 2023 ending, the inflation rate is 22.41%, the highest in the last 17 years. And youth unemployment rate at 42.5% as at April ending, and the rate is soaring daily. Youth of this country have no option than to key into and take advantage of all the entrepreneurial opportunities that are bound in Nigerian maritime sector in order to boost the national economy, create jobs for our teeming youths that are unemployed and underemployed, reduce poverty and hunger in the country. The Guardian newspaper editorial of Thursday, May 25, 2023 stated that poverty, a constant in the country's socio-economic equation, is an increasing function of unemployment and inflation rates. Last year, the National Bureau of Statistics survey estimated that 63% of persons living in Nigeria are multidimensionally poor and are living from hand to mouth. Presently, the fuel subsidy removal has worsened the bad state of Nigeria's economy, with skyrocketing prices of goods and services, This is a critical situation for our nation, Nigeria, and for our youths who are the leaders of tomorrow. The time is now for you as a young person to geometrically elude the dangerous effects of the triple network connection of inflation, unemployment, and poverty by creating your own opportunity, by venturing into your own business, by keying into the opportunities that are bound in the maritime industry. To create job for yourself, create for others, create revenue for yourself, create for others. Let's stop waiting till the government provide us a job. Thank you for listening.
However, you need to understand it within the context that these sectors are sectors of significant profitability, which you should develop interest in, probably even from this stage, by exploring internships for the purpose of familiarizing yourself with the operations and identifying opportunities in greater detail, so that in the future, when you are more knowledgeable, you are able to go into these areas. In the immediate term, there are areas within areas of which I consider of more low-hanging fruits: data aggregation, technology, research, which are significant areas. And if we have time, probably I will touch on one or two of them.
I will not bore you with any prayer. Let me just go straight to the point. I represent the free falling group, and we call it the static talk for the economy. The motive force behind every economy, and the highest employer of labor. So I congratulate all the youths that are here, that I'm privileged to be in your midst, to tell you that aside whatever training or courses you have gone through, try to pick interest in freight forwarding. Freight forwarding is more like a beginning into shipping, and it also has its own cadre. You can start from haulage, you can start from warehousing, you can start from custom brokerage, clearing, until you get to the peak. And I can give a very good example. Most of you know CFAS, Dr. Taya Falabi. He started from the humble beginning as a clearing agent. And he started migrating from one cadre to the other. Today, he is a grand handler. He is a terminal operator. Tomorrow, he might also migrate to the level of port owner, airport owner, vessel owner, aircraft owner. That is the way the industry is. It's all inclusive in freight forwarding. Interestingly, the only thing you need to start is training and interest. You must have this enthusiasm in freight forwarding. You must develop that conscious interest in that profession. You must be resolute, you must be determined, and you must be focused. You must not be derailed. Number one, get the relevant training. Once you have the training, then you are good to go. Look for a mentor, somebody to mentor you. I'm not saying immediately you join the industry, you are going to make it big, like Dr. Taya Falabi or most of the big players in the industry. But from that humble beginning, you start migrating and get a mentor, get someone to encourage you. Before you know it, you get to the level of being self-employed. At that level, you begin to move to the level of employing others. You must also be innovative. How do I put it? It makes me to laugh. There is job, but we have fewer people that are ready to work. Some of us, we've had the opportunity to 34 years in the industry. And we employed so many people in the past. And most of the time, when we employ them, if you look at CBS, they have a certificate, but the enthusiasm is not there. You employ them, they won't do the right thing. You employ them, they want to be like you the next day. They don't know how many years you put into the industry, but they want to be as big as you are the second day. They are not looking for how to acquire more knowledge. They don't want to learn on the job, but they want to make the money. And most of the youth think of money than knowledge. Some of us, when we joined this industry in 89, 88, we're not thinking about money. We're thinking of knowledge. But if the youth concentrate more on knowledge, we continue having more unemployed youth. You don't make money overnight. You work towards making money. And it might take you some time. If you are lucky, it will be faster. Maybe it's not faster, continue acquiring more knowledge. Don't limit yourself to a specific knowledge.
picking interest because you never can say which of these endeavor will lift you to the next level. But if you are concentrating on the core competence, oh, I'm okay here, I'm a cadet, I just have to get to the peak of that cadet, you might not be fortunate to get there. But if you have alternative training, it will help and bring you to the next level. That is how to grow in life. Money is not the first thing. The first thing is the money. If you can acquire knowledge, the sky is your stepping stone. The job is there, and the job is not there waiting for you. You have to create the job. When you create the job, you help others to also create the job. The youth have to help the youth. Thank you.
So I will discuss on the funding mechanism. Funding mechanism in the sense that for whatever entrepreneurial opportunities you have, you also need funding. How do you get this funding? At least averagely, second officers are earning offshore, they are earning nothing less than 60,000 naira per day. So if you look at these kind of jobs, by the time you put them together, you come back onshore, you don't know what to do. So what you need to look at now is, how do you get involved in these opportunities? How do you get yourself involved? Don't wait until you can establish a company for yourself. Learn how to partner with others. 10,000 times 100 people will know what it is. And that alone can start a business. And when you start your cadetship, don't see cadetship as an opportunity for you to build house or whatever. First of all, understand that you are still a student. Stop taking responsibility in the family. When I finished my cadetship, when I was on my cadetship, I started calling my grandma, send your account number. I started taking family responsibilities. That hindered my growth. So as a cadet, whatever money you get now, it is not the salary. These are actually funding for you to grow. So now how we put these things together to now help the fishing business they have mentioned, the badge business they have mentioned, the freight forwarding business they have mentioned. These are ways we need to gather it. And with all of us here now, I think none of us will tell me that it does not have a 10,000 naira. Multiply the 10,000 naira by this number of people, we can actually start this transport business from Ikorodu to VI. If we run one boat for a particular period, we can multiply this boat. It's just for you to have your normal paperwork in place, have a proper management system, and you will see that this business will grow. So you might not have the opportunities to hold a ship today. You might not have the opportunity to buy your own things, but please, the money will come. Money will come. When you finish and you have your license, you will get money. No bid, at least no job at your level will pay better than what we get at sea. But please, when you get this money actually, for you to find a way to use it, you must understand how to put them into use. So I will not want to bore you with opportunities. I want to relate with you because these are aspects that I actually find myself wanting. I get good salaries, I get home, I gallivant for the 2 months, I go back on board. That is why you see that HR of companies, they will disrespect you. Chief owners will disrespect you because they know that once you lose that job, you do not have another thing to follow. You start queuing for other jobs. But when you have a solid business background, you have a solid financial backup, you will not be scared of. You will not even take useless offers. You will not take offers that are derogatory. So what you need to do right now is start putting your. Whenever I'm on time off, I'm a forklift driver. Now I'm learning how to drive a truck. Because in Canada, there are good opportunities for truck drivers. On the ship now, I did nautical science. I work on a drill ship. I see that, okay, there are people called roastabout. Roastabout, they do not have a basic, you don't have to have basic or formal education to be a roastabout. You grow into being a floor hand. From floor hand, you become a pump man. From pump man, you become a derrick man. From derrick man, you become assistant driller. When you hear the salaries of these people, even a professor will not earn that much. You as a marine engineer, venture into hydraulic tech. There's a lot of money in hydraulic tech, software engineering, well engineers. As nautical science, don't think until you become a captain before you make it. No. You can become a surveyor, geomatics. These are aspects that are actually, they are all working on the ships. So don't wait until anybody will give you cadetship. You might not have it.
thinking on how to expand your view, expand your horizon, and gather your funds. Every time you make today is going to help towards your next phase of life. So please don't waste this time of waiting for Kadeshi. Don't waste it. Learn to be a truck driver. Learn to be a forklift operator. Learn to use any programming on the computer. Excel, it works well. As a chief officer, I use Excel like anything. A lot of things you can actually venture into right now, and that will become what you now become your tool in future. So being a captain or chief engineer is not the end of maritime. There are so many opportunities. Thank you.
It's better to find out what are the needs of the ship owners. I can't get a ship, I can't buy a ship, but the people that buy the ship, man it, they have needs. To run a vessel is like to run a country. It is to run a big establishment that every aspect of profession is needed to operate for it to run in what is called ship-shape form. Even if it means volunteering in the Western and developed countries, volunteering is one of the easiest ways to get experience. When you volunteer, even if it is for 2 years, 3 years, number one, you make contacts, you build networks, you gain experience. Experience, knowledge, contact, network, you build it before you can leverage on it to start making money. So, learning, volunteering, creating content in terms of the needs of the ship owners, in terms of the needs of the port industry, in terms of the needs of the bankers, in terms of the needs of the marine insurance, in terms of the needs of the maritime lawyer. The maritime lawyer may not have time to run around to pursue briefs or to collect information. These are areas that will expose you to future careers, because as you do this, you gain experience. As you do this, you gain knowledge. You can go into brokerage, you can go into mining. Somebody mentioned mining, and there are both shore-based and land-based careers. The vessels and the land-based, you can go into human resources. The crew need somebody to manage them. You can go into catering. The people working in the vessels, they need somebody to cook for them. They need somebody to launder for them. You can go into fabrications. It's unfortunate, but we need to have shipbuilding yards. And one thing that makes me uncomfortable is a situation where we say government has never been a catalyst for development anywhere. The drivers of development, both economic and otherwise, are private sector. Government just creates the enabling environment for development to take place. Therefore, never look at government. They won't give you anything. The only thing they can give you is to create laws and policies that will make you to now utilize your given talent, pursue your interest and your gifts in the areas of the industry. Therefore, look for those areas of needs. People sell marine ropes and other pollards. Those ship parts that are needed, you can deal in them. In doing that, you build experience and network before you are, because life is in stages. Life is in stages. You don't just get up. As you are looking at me, I've done 35 years in the port industry. 35 years in the port industry and counting. Therefore, there's no part of the port industry I don't know anything about. That is the industry I'm very fascinated. And then since I retired, I've also veered into other areas, entrepreneurship and other areas. You can go into ICT development, data analysis. You go to industries that are in the maritime and shipping. Find out. You can notice that some shipping companies and even maritime industries, they are running for 10 years, 20 years. They have never bothered to take time to study, build data, and study the progression of their industry, the progression of what are the takeaways, what areas. These are using your knowledge, your head, study analysis of companies, corporate bodies, and advise them as a consultant. Analyze their data, build apps for them. These are the areas that does not require each capital outlay, and these are opportunities that are available for the youth because the capacity is there and the population is there, and the sky is no longer your limit. Thank you.
You see the badge operator, those top boats and badge connected, they constitute a lot of users in the channel. A lot of conditions, we're having problems with them. So, and I know very soon, we've had a series of accidents within the Lagos channel. And I know a lot of regulations are coming in place. So it's actually a very good place to look into. There will be a day that ordinary people that have not got certification will not be able to fly that route again. So you have more opportunities. We have someone from the Newark today. I was told that he was from the academy. So these are things that you see that it is not just you going to the high sea now that is the opportunity. Thank you that you have been able to identify that. What are the things you need to be able to operate those stock boats? Start preparing yourself towards it. Those speed boats you see, last one, at least I know some of your junior cadets back then, they are in last one. They are doing very, very well. So there will be regulations every time when there's an accident. Right now, we just made how many minutes silence for people who lost their lives. So when they are correcting, they are closing out some of these things. There will be close out recommendations. One of the recommendations will be certification and training of these people. Are you ready to take that offer? These are the things you need to start preparing yourself for. So it is now thrown back to you that, are you ready to start learning? If you need, I know, I'm not sure, the master should have the certification for boat operators, or maybe it's Newark that is regulating that. When we start having that, get those licenses with your rules of the road, how to navigate channels, understanding of conventions. You'll be able to now do it better. Then we'll be able to eradicate this accident that is happening in our waterways. So it's a place you should look at as an operator, and it's a place you should look at as owners as well. Because those boats, I think maybe within 4 million, 3 million, you can get one. Organize a cooperative in your school. Get yourself into the association. Gather money. Invest in those things. They speak to lawyers who can educate you on how to get paperwork and documentation. So you can actually see yourself solving problems. So identify the problems which you have identified. Now start thinking of how to solve them. So you have a very valid point, and we should start looking at that.
We have another great icon in the maritime sector here with me. Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Can we meet once again, please?
My name is Abilam Oluremi Solomon. I'm from the University of Lagos, a student of logistics and transport management at master's levels.
All right, talking about the 7th edition of the AMSAY conference. Each year we bring the young people, the students, with the movers and shakers in the maritime sector for them to learn one or two things from them. And this year we're talking about the greener shipping in Nigeria. So for you, what have you learned so far in the whole thing happened today?
Yeah, today I think we've learned a lot with respect to greener shipping. I think it's a conversation that comes around engaging all stakeholders within the maritime sector to ensure that all hands are on deck to work towards this Sustainable Development Goal 2050 for us to remove all the carbon that is being emitted from our ship to ensure that these emissions are reduced by 0.5%. Wow. It is actually a way to also say that, okay, the ship they are using diesels. These diesels release carbon into the air and causes environmental pollution to our environment, and also an health hazard to seafarers and maritime workers on the ship and within the environment. So we are looking at reducing this so that it reduces the environmental impact on the environment, on the workers, and on even the ships.
All right, now you're one of the judges from the quiz in the competition that released to two. So what are the criteria for picking the winner for today?
Yeah, it was actually a very rigorous session. It started about a month or two ago, where we actually invited many of them to submit entry for the right for second Ojutalayo speech writing competition. About 27 of those students actually submitted entry, and for the first stage of this competition, we actually assessed all of them, and we actually were able to throw five of them into the second stage. At the second stage, we actually did an interview and an assessment based on their presentation skills, based on their communication skills, based on their appearances, and based on their the use of maritime languages and terms, and based on the understanding of the topic itself. Yeah, so those are the criteria upon which we actually assess them. And so today is actually the third stage, which is the final. So we threw about three of them into the finals. About two of them actually show up today, and so they've been assessed accordingly by three judges.